Raz, let me start with you. How often do you find yourself in a situation where you're like, man, this foreigner really doesn't know that well about China, or this Chinese guy really doesn't know much about the West?
Well, to be honest, very often. I think it's a very normal thing to generally not understand much about other cultures and just know very general things or stereotypical ideas. Um, it's a daily encounter. Of course, when I meet somebody in China, they might not necessarily know much about my country, and I'm from Israel. And but at the same time, when I speak to people back home or from other countries that do not know much about China, don't speak the language, their understanding of the most basic things could be close to zero. And for me, it's shocking because in the internet era, the information age, there should be much more openness to learning more about other cultures. And it was quite an often that when I would try to share with them things about my basic day-to-day life here, they would not be knowing a lot about a lot of some general things.
There are a lot of questions about the content that we created over there. How would you try to communicate with some of the Western viewers who are not necessarily sold about what's really happening in China?
It's one of the greatest questions. Then the one thing I wake up every morning and ask myself and my team, and we ask each other how to create topics that could attract more attention and more understanding of China, and how do we tackle the so-called, as I say, indifference, so-called sometimes hate, sometimes fear of China. And one way we always do, the one way we always use on each one of our content is that we focus on the people. My strategy and our style of connecting and letting more people understand so-called the concept of China, which can be so big, there's like 5,000 plus years of history. And a lot of times people in the West can relate to it because if you notice, we said at the beginning of the interview today, we have so much more in common in terms of our values and our love to our families, our love we're eager to succeed and try to make more of ourselves in our lives. We're eager to have friends, even if at the beginning they're very skeptical and they're like, is this really true or is it just some propaganda, as the common word is used, propaganda. But if you do it you do it over time, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you continuously show different stories, feature different people, you realize that there is a change that can happen over the perspective of these people. And so that's what we do.